Rachel Ann Goodman. Thank you for joining me for one in a series of conversations with City Council candidates for the City of Santa Cruz. And today speaking with me is Nathanael Kennedy. Hi, Nathanael.
Hello.
So as I've been doing with every candidate, how about if you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for City Council?
Well, I've been going to City Council meetings for a long time now, and it's all too common that everybody gets up and they speak and they're speaking against an issue and they make some very solid arguments, and then the vote comes up and it's like nobody was even heard. You know, I'm not talking about just one person going up to speak. I'm talking about several people going up to speak. And then they seem to be listening for most of it, and then in one ear, out the other. And, you know, I feel that we need more candidates on the city council that will give more response to when people are speaking. And I want myself to be one of those candidates.
Have you ever thought about being in politics before this, or did something just change in you when you saw this supposed unlistening that was happening?
Well, I am a Kennedy, and so I've got politics pretty deep in my blood, and I finally decided that I should do it. And God gives us all a purpose in life, and I feel this is one of those.
Are you saying you're related to the Kennedys, or that the fact that you're a Kennedy inspires you because you feel a kinship to the more famous political Kennedys?
More of the latter, but you know, it just, people ask if I'm related to JFK, to Scott Kennedy, Robert, you know, all these guys, and I am, if you go back far enough. It's all just a big 1,000-year-old tree in the woods that has tons of branches all over the place.
Sure.
And it's all coming off the same tree.
Let's go back to this idea of the average person being heard. You've been to a lot of city council meetings. That's what's inspiring you to run. If you put yourself on the other side of the table in the city council seat, what are some of the main things you're hearing from the public that you feel like you could do something about? What are the maybe top 3 issues you feel most strongly about?
The top 3 issues, I would actually have to say easing off the skateboarding ban on Pacific Avenue is something really needs to be done. It seems like everybody I talk to about it really feels the same way. And I mean, beyond perhaps the city council and the police enforcing the laws that they've passed, I mean, beyond that, you know, skateboarder or not, just about everybody seems to agree that skateboarding is not a crime.
So if you were a city council person, what kind of rules would you want to set that would be more favorable to skateboarders, but would also maybe recognize the needs of pedestrians and
Yes.
other people driving cars and things like that?
Well, the thing is to just respect it as another vehicle. And by another vehicle, I mean just have it so the bike laws, which are the traffic laws for a bike, are basically the same as for a car. And the traffic laws for a skateboard should be the same as a bicycle.
Mm-hmm. So they could be in the street, but not on the sidewalk.
Yes, if they're on the sidewalk, well, you're kind of asking for a ticket because you might run somebody down when you don't mean to. And the pavement for Pacific Ave was repaved a while ago, on Earth Day 2009 or 10, and they ripped it all up and repaved it. Well, especially since it's been repaved, that's perfect if you're on a skateboard.
So let's talk about it. Sounds like you spend a lot of time downtown, and you have some opinions about how it could be a better place for people.
Oh, and just for note, I am not a skateboarder myself.
Okay.
I freak out if I get on the skateboard. Just feels like I might fall, but you know, that's just something every skateboarder has to be prepared for when they fall, not if.
Oh, you wouldn't want to be driving in a car behind one when they fell in front of you, because then they would be in trouble. I would feel more vulnerable if I was driving behind a skateboarder and they were apt to be squashed by my
That's
car.
true, but somebody in a car just needs to give more space. If they don't give enough space, they could be the one that ultimately causes the severity of the accident.
So back to this
but-
quality of life
But
downtown. I
just
wanted to ask you about
Okay.
that because there's a lot more going on than skateboarding. There's a lot of laws and regulation about what people can and can't do. And I read in some of your literature that you feel some of the regulations around musicians and vendors downtown is also too restrictive and that you might want to change that as well.
yes.
Could you talk about that?
Well, one thing I think would be that we need to do is get it so that there were all the laws in place. You need to be so many feet from a trash can, from a business, from this, from that, and then you'd look at a brochure list of everything, and it'd take a while sometimes. You could finally find a spot or two that was completely legal. And now that we've put these boxes all over the street for people to be in, a lot of the boxes are in places that otherwise wouldn't be legal. But what I think we should use the boxes for, if you're sitting down in a box, if you're set up at a box, then you're guaranteed legal because there's a box there. But aside from that, anywhere where you could set up before those boxes were there, you should be able to. And I've heard plenty of stories of people getting tickets for being outside of a box, even having some of their setup fall too far out of a box. And it's restricting.
So in a perfect world that you designed, if you could get the other council members to vote on it, what kind of rules would you like to see in place for vendors and musicians that would encourage, the creative side of having music in a public setting, but also have people be able to walk by? I mean, clearly we all have to get along in a public sphere and respect each other's rights, but at the same time not impede commerce or traffic or people walking. So what would be your ideal setup there that would work for everybody?
Something I think we need to do is change it around so, like I was saying, so if you're out of a box, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not legal, because there's lots of places people set up. But also something we need to do is change it so that we should increase the 1 hour limit for being in a spot. Increase it to at least 2 or even 3 hours. Just because when you've set up in a spot, an hour goes by really fast. And then, like I was just dealing with this yesterday, was I'd be set up in one spot and we'd be looking at the clock and, oh, it's been an hour. All the squares around us, the people had been in for at least a few hours and like nobody was moving. So everything was taken up and it wasn't really even possible to move like they say, oh, move after 1 hour. Well, an hour goes by, we check, all the spots are taken and there's nowhere to move to unless we just stay in the same spot.
So it sounds like what's happening isn't working for the people it's supposed to be helping know what to do and not do in a public space, and you would like to redesign something that worked better.
Actually, a big thing I think is the city should give permits to people for setting up downtown. If you're just singing a guitar, if you're putting out some artwork, especially artwork of your own for sale, those are the sorts of things that shouldn't even require a permit at all. Just let people continue doing it as they are. But I remember Rochelle Narayan at one of the city council meetings was talking about, everybody, oh, this is turning downtown into a flea market. And then she's like, yeah, what if I just went out with a vacuum cleaner and tried to sell a vacuum cleaner on one of those squares? Well, you know what? For stuff that's not artwork, that's not music, we should allow people to go down there and sell anything with a proper permit in place. And in that case, we should give Rochelle her permit to go and sell a vacuum cleaner on the street downtown.
Perhaps it's not happening because you can't fit a vacuum cleaner into that small space. You know, I've been to other towns that have a vibrant musical public life, and they often do lotteries at the beginning of the day, and they have various rules because you don't really want artists to be in conflict with one another. In some places like Amsterdam, there's a code of conduct, everyone knows it, and you have to move after an hour. And if someone asks you to move, you are kind of honor bound as a fellow musician. But every town has a different way of doing it, and I know Santa Cruz has tried numerous things. It sounds like this latest iteration needs some work, and that you would like to be part of the solution to figuring it out better. Is that accurate? What are some of the other issues? Like, people talk a lot about the homelessness issue, that there are people sleeping on the sidewalk, and there's fines given out to people who fall asleep while panhandling. What would you do differently to regulate that behavior, which some people say that deteriorates from the commerce happening in the city?
What I feel we need to do is find a large piece of property, just square footage large, not necessarily a big house or anything. Empty would probably be even better. But get a large piece of property, have it owned by the city, and run it as a campground. You know, fence it in, put cameras in to keep people safe. You know, because I mean, of course, if you got 20 people in a spot, all in tents, you know, people will be going through other people's stuff. But just have cameras there to deter that and to look at the footage if something does disappear. And basically, we don't need to lift the sleeping bag and make it so people can camp out in any doorway they want. You know, that's one extreme, but I think this way of doing it is just simple as we need to give people a place to go.
That's a
that
really
they can
interesting
legally
idea.
set up.
Yeah.
And, you know, not only should we have a large area where everybody can set up tents, AstroTurf would be a really good idea, because that way somebody sets up their tent for 3 weeks and takes it down, and they didn't just kill all the grass under the tent. So
You
there's
know,
that.
during the Dust Bowl, when a lot of migrants were flooding into California, the government set up camps where they were policed and patrolled, and they were really clean. You couldn't stay for more than a certain amount of time. But it was funded by the federal government, and I wonder if the city of Santa Cruz would have the resources or have to pull them from some other place. They're spending money policing now. So I don't know how you would pay for something like that if you have some ideas, but money has to come from somewhere.
Well, just we pay enough in taxes, and there's, gosh, what was it? There was a recent one where they wanted to, I think, put bike lanes on Pacific Ave where the bicyclists could go against traffic or something. Just various changes to downtown. I'm the only person, at least that I remember, that went up and spoke against it pretty thoroughly. And I was like, look, this is nothing but a waste of money. The street's just fine the way it is right now. And they wanted to spend something like $400,000 to $500,000 on this little project of redoing Pacific. And to me, that's just a waste of money.
So it sounds like what you're saying, it's about priorities. If we
Yeah.
wanted to shift money from another project like that one over to a camp for homeless people, we could do it. It's just a matter of will.
Yeah. And like key things, we'd want to build a little area for people to use, have showers there, maybe even have them like gym showers where, there's not really any privacy when you're there, but, showers available to everybody, at least a real bathroom plus some porta potties, a kitchen area where food could be made for everybody, just having the basics and just basically providing the basics to people who don't have a home.
Sounds like a reasonable idea. It's been rather, it's been given a very cool reception by previous council members. And I'm not going to go into why, but I wonder how you would convince them that this was a good idea. Can you pull from other successful places perhaps that have done this, or?
Kind of, sort of. And what my kind of, sort of is Camp Paradise. I actually, back in 2001, was it? I even stayed there for a short period of time, and I thought it was run very well, very professional for a bunch of homeless bums.
Was that in Santa Cruz?
Yes, it was down past the jail, this large area on the river that wasn't being used, and what happened was we got a bunch of really heavy rain, and the river came up and up and up until it flooded the whole camp, and everybody had to leave with all their tents going down the river.
Wow. Yeah, location would be important, I imagine. Let's move on to some other issues before we run out of time. Are there other things you feel strongly about that you'd like to see changed about the way the council is focusing its attention? Any particular issue you feel needs more attention than it's getting?
Legalizing or decriminalizing the use of sidewalk chalk, for one. What I think would be a really good idea. Right now, it's a nasty misdemeanor vandalism ticket if you're caught with using sidewalk chalk anywhere. You know,
Really?
yes,
I wasn't aware of that.
I even have a misdemeanor on my record for using sidewalk chalk.
You know, some cities open up their entire downtown to children, give them chalk, but I
Yeah.
guess these children would have gotten a
But-
ticket, is that right? I'm surprised.
Well, we put them into what, preschool, juvie?
Well, so if you don't mind me asking, how did you get your fine for chalking the sidewalk?
I just, it was kind of like Rosa Parks refusing to move. You know, I was doing a little bit of artwork, and with a bunch of friends of mine that loved to use the sidewalk as a canvas too, and we were chalking, and they came and they gave us all tickets, and then that just got me to start doing it more and more until it turned into a pile of tickets. And then after that, they took me off to jail. It was on the weekend or on Friday night, I think. So I wasn't able to go to court until the next Monday. But when it finally went to the judge just laughed it all out of court and dismissed the whole
You
thing.
spent a weekend in jail for chalking the sidewalk?
Yep, 3 days.
How much did that cost the city? I wonder. It's expensive to house someone for 3 days. Well, we'll find that out later, but it's
I
an
think
interesting
something like at least
experience.
$300 to $500 that came out of the penal system, the what do you call it, the penitentiary system budget.
Well, I don't want to make light of it or ask you how the food was, but I do want to get to some other issues, and I'm sorry you had to go to jail for your principles, but that is a tradition as well.
One of what I think the best solution is we just need areas clearly marked, just like we had the blue boxes, clearly marked that you can set up here, you can sit here, but, you know, have the same thing, but areas clearly marked for where you could legally, legitimately whip out a box of sidewalk chalk and start doing some artwork.
Sounds like rules can help people know what they can and can't do, but still allow them to do it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we might have a whole pile of rules, and when I say decriminalize, I mean make it so that if you're just chalking anything just anywhere and it's not an allowed spot, the cops should still be able to give you a ticket for chalking, just not a misdemeanor ticket.
Fair enough. So in the time we have left, I want to get to a couple of other issues that I've been asking everybody about, and one of them is traffic. There's a lot of cars in Santa Cruz, especially in the summer. Is there anything the city council can do to reduce congestion of traffic, not only downtown, but all over the city?
Give more funding to the metro buses and have more routes for longer hours.
They unfortunately said they were low on money, so they had to cut routes, so it becomes a
Yeah.
cycle, downward. And the fewer routes, the less people use it. So how do you turn that corner? Where does the money come from? Where do you find a place that isn't taxed already to try to fund that? Because on principle, most council members, I'm sure would agree with you that transit is good. So how do we fund it? It seems like there's a tipping point that was reached where they had to go down in routes instead of up.
I don't know, some sort of tax on gasoline or extra taxes at car dealerships or something that would go into the bus system.
That's an interesting idea.
You know, just
Get people out of
basically
their cars.
milk the money out of our drivers. You know, I mean, not too much, but enough to help keep things sustainable and put it into public transit.
There is quite a bit of that already going on. So you're talking about raising it to a
Yeah.
level that funds our transit system.
I mean, like, well, just have stuff where it's a small enough amount that most people would hardly even notice, like, I don't know, 2 to 5 cent per gallon extra tax on gasoline, maybe. You buy a brand new car and they give you the whole lease and everything. Maybe something, tag onto the cost of everything that you'd pay for the car over the whole time you're getting it. You know, maybe another 250 to, this sounds a little high, 500 towards, from the sale of that car, could go back into city pockets.
Interesting ideas. In the final 5 minutes we have, because we are running out of time, I wanted to get to a couple more issues, if you don't mind. Are you in favor of a permanent sports arena that would be built with some city money? They're looking at that right now, about whether to take down the big tent thing and make a real arena that would hold sports events.
The arena where it is, it's an okay location. I live really close to it.
Has it had a big impact on you as a resident? Even
I
just where-
hear the crowds at night and stuff like that, but nothing bad. But the main thing is they're thinking of expanding onto adjoining properties, and that's the sort of thing that I'm really against. I mean, I think we should just leave it as is. It's good the way it is. And then if they really want more, leave it up just the way it is, but stick another indoor arena at Depot Park or something. And just, that's the one spot they've talked about that seems reasonable to me, is there's the big soccer field down at Depot Park. Just put a big tent over it so you're not affected by the weather, and have soccer games in there too. I mean, not just basketball, just all sorts of different sports, and you know, just I know. I mean, it's a D league. It's not even the big leagues, and I've always thought that something they should do is broadcast the games at the arena right now on community television.
Well, there's an idea to give to the folks at Community TV. We're just about out of time, but I wanted to thank you for coming in and sharing your ideas with the audience and with me. And I appreciate your time today.
Okay.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Thank you.